Hi, Donna here from In a Pickle Knitting with Vlogentines, day number 2. This will upload for February 2nd, which is Tuesday in 2021. Today I have a children's literature book and a craft for you. So I will start with the children's literature book. This is called Mr. Goat's Valentine. It's by Eve Bunting, illustrated by Kevin Zimmer. And Eve Bunting is a prolific writer of children's literature. She writes all sorts of books for children, over 250 publications. She does folk tales. She's from Ireland, but she lives in the U.S. She does a lot of just fiction. She does some for middle to upper elementary grade children with chapter books, but mostly they'll be picture books. And the ones that I like the most usually are her books that are historical fiction. She does an excellent job with historical fiction for young people. So this is Mr. Goat's Valentine, and this is recommended as a book that would be good for teachers to use for predicting. As you go through the story, predict who is Mr. Goat's Valentine. And you would probably not be surprised, but children might be a little bit surprised as to who his Valentine is. So it starts off with he notices in the paper that it's Valentine's Day, and so he's just so excited, and he wants to get something for his first love to show how much she means to him. So he goes and buys all the typical goat kind of things, not the things that we would buy, but we might buy flowers. But he has a mixed bouquet of crabgrass, pigweeds, and ragweed in a nice rusty can for my first love. And then he goes on to get her something to eat, like we might do chocolates, but instead, oh my goodness, he's got this rotten egg, and it lay on the counter black and oozing as a sample. It's rotted for 2 years, guaranteed foul and disgusting. And Mr. Goat buys 4 of them, 2 for himself and 2 for his first love. So you can see they're showing the smell wafting out of that nice pretty Valentine box. So he's thinking then of what he will get next. He runs into Mr. Skunk, who wants his rotten eggs, and the present, Miss Skunk cocked her head and said, "Do you have a Valentine's card for her?" "No, I have presents." "Well, too bad, you need a card." So he goes on to find his first love. Now, can you predict who his first love is going to be? Well, I'm going to skip to the end and let you know. The door opened, and there she was. Oh, she's lovely. Happy Valentine's Day, Mother. So I think you would have guessed that would be his first love, but the kids might not guess that to be. So it'd be a great book for predicting, and a cute little book for Valentine's Day with just a little spin there with the different gifts that he selects for his first love. My craft today is a very simple one. It is a dishcloth, and this is a pattern from a little Knitty Heart dishcloth. It was a free pattern, and of course, as dishcloth, you're going to knit with cotton yarn. I chose this time, I often use the, is it sugar and cream and sugar, something like that, but I used some Knit Picks Dishy that I have in the colorway, I think it was Begonia. Double check. Yes, this is Begonia, and that is it's a pink color, kind of a dark pink. This is how much I had left over, but this is out of 100 grams that I'd already knit a dishcloth from, and I actually did 2 from this, 2 additional. So I got 3, but 1 is very tiny, and then still had left over. So you definitely can get 2 dishcloths unless you're just making monster dishcloths. But some things I was going to mention. The pattern suggested what size needle? Size 7. But I used a 6, and the reason I did that is that I usually knit with a 1 size smaller on dishcloths. I found with my knitting it turns, so I just did that automatically. So that is one problem, because she said a 7 and I used a 6. And here's what turned out. That's a very tiny little cloth. Now, yes, the gauge was made different by my needle choice, but also this has a small cast cast on number of stitches. But you'll see the heart here is in stockinette, and it's surrounded by purl stitches and has that garter stitch edges to keep it from rolling. On the back though, it's reversible because then you get the purl bumps for your heart and stockinette for your edge stitches. So it looks like a heart both ways. And so after making this and thinking, well, that's not a very useful size particularly, I think it still can be useful, but not the size I wanted. I went back, and here are the changes that I made for me. I moved up to the 7 needle. That will definitely increase the size. But instead of the cast on number that was suggested, I cast on 39 stitches. And then another thing that I'll just show you. This is what I got by using a size 7, but mostly I think it was the additional stitches. I had to make some adjustments here, but once you get going with the pattern, you can figure out, you're just going to keep doing that until you get to where you think that's how much you want on the sides. Do a few straight rows, and then the decreasing is going to be very similar to this, but just, you know, adding in probably 1 row. So you can do that on your own. And then this is a useful size. I could have done more than 39. I considered, no, actually I did do 47 because I usually do 55 on my other pattern that I do. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do 47. And it came out a good size, actually a very nice size, because I was using a larger needle than I usually do. And then I was about to maybe here and thought, I'm going to run out of yarn. So I ripped it out and went back and did the 39 stitches. So having this much left over, I could have done more than 39, but you don't know. So I think 41 might have worked, and I'd have gotten a size that I liked. I put a crocheted little handle on here, which I do for most of mine. I don't really ever use it, but I think somebody might. Although I used to have some in my bathroom, and I would put, when they were in the shower, I did have a hook. I would hang them on. Something else I always do, or almost always do on dishcloths, is to make the edge a little different. I prefer this edge to the purl bumps on the edge. The purl bumps are fine, but that edge looks more like your cast on edge. It looks more like your bind off edge. So to do that, it's so simple. You just have to remember that you've done it and count it as 1 stitch, but you just pull your yarn to the front and slip 1 purlwise with the yarn in front, then move your yarn to the back and do all of your knit stitches. And if you do that on the first stitch of every row, then you'll end up with that kind of an edging on both sides. It sometimes gets a little bit confusing if the pattern that says knit 4 for your edging. You have to remember, now you've slipped 1, so that's one of your knit 4s, and so you need to knit 3. So as long as you remember that, it will come out with having that nice little edge. So that is our craft for today, and I told you the pattern name, and I did get it free on Ravelry, or it might have been a link to her. She might have a website herself that it took me to. In fact, it does. It's www.alittleknitty.com. And she gives you that free for personal use only. So you can't make them and sell them in craft fairs or anything like that. But how wonderful to have a free pattern. And I was using leftover yarn because I had knit a dishcloth out of that dishie. So I'm glad to have used up almost all of it and have a gift here. And actually 2 gifts, because the little one can certainly be used for something. It's just not the type I use when I'm in the kitchen. So that's what we have for today. And I hope that you'll be able to join me again tomorrow, where we will have Vlogentines Day 3. Bye now.